There was a study that was just done, a survey, I should say, that says 26% say if something goes wrong in the morning by 8:36, the whole day is shot. Really? Really? Is that what we built an entire country on? People going across the country in covered wagons and stuff? I just, waking up feeling sick in there. Okay, yeah, that could set you back physically. What about forgetting your car keys? Sleeping through your alarm? Joining us now is, I guess you could call him a self-described resiliency expert. He's an author. He wrote this book, Absolution, The Dark Path to Light. And I have just now getting to know this guy. Talked to him a little bit last week, Friday. But I'm looking forward to this. Scott Allen Curley. Let me give you a little bit of his background. Scott, hang on, because I'm going to get you on here. But here's a guy who was born into, his father didn't want anything to do with him. His mom kind of abandoned him. He was left on his own. He got involved in the wrong people. Imagine that. Drugs, alcohol, bad behavior, criminal stuff. Ended up in prison. He's a guy who should have just been, tattoos all over his head and in prison for life and not able to deal with it. How in the heck does he get out and get himself squared away and become a guy who can write a book and tell everybody else how to get past adversity? Scott Allen Curley is with us, and I want to get your take on that. Hey, Scott, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
So are we a country of just a bunch of wusses that it doesn't take much to knock us off the skids?
You said it. I didn't. You said it.
How do how do we get to be resilient? You're the guy.
Well, for me, I was taught, I can't say that I always had this mindset, but the operative word is mindset. It's all in our mindset. I spent 10 years in prison for several nonviolent offenses, being pretty much a nuisance to society all through the 80s and into the early 90s. And so I have lived in the worst of worst situations, per se, in very violent units. And now, I guess I maybe have a little bit of a little bit of an advantage, because my best day out here on free ground, let me repeat that. My worst day out here on free ground is still so much better than my best day in prison.
So do we all need to experience prison or something to make us appreciate what we have?
It's funny you say that. No, but what we should do, in my opinion, is have what I call an attitude of gratitude. There are so many things that could be so much worse for all of us. I remember hearing this quote. I once was sad because I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. In the grand scheme of things, I see folks getting so frustrated and upset and even enraged in traffic. You know how many people wish they had legs so that they could even drive? How many people are in hospital beds and fighting for their lives, just would love to be sitting in traffic? So it's really just a mindset, and I think it's important for all of us, myself included, to not let a moment in time, to destroy so much of the rest of the day that could turn out to be even one that could be beautiful and wonderful. And you can even use this experience of sitting in traffic and being frustrated, handle it properly, and share that with the next person and show them how you were able to overcome that urge to be angry and frustrated.
I can hear people in their mind right now going like, yeah. I was going to say you're tough and everything. Yeah, right. Yeah, but you haven't lost your car keys like I have, pal. I hit a deer over the weekend, and all that kind of stuff.
I do say, we're human. We put it in perspective. And I do think that we should give ourselves permission to feel our feelings. All of our feelings are valid, but at the same time, put an expiration time on it. If I want to cuss in my truck while I'm trying to get to work, and I can cuss for about 10 seconds. I get it out and then get over it. Get over it. Because if you keep on it, now you're focusing on the problem as opposed to focusing on the solution. The solution is, okay, I'm stuck here. What do I do? And you make a call. Let few people know that I'm running a little bit late. Get that out of the way. Now, just let's get back in the positive mind space.
It comes down to, emotions. You mentioned emotions. Sometimes I think we operate totally on emotions, and instead we should operate maybe more on logic, reasoning. And you know what? You could carry this through the political atmosphere, which has been in this country for the last several years now. And especially this cycle around, we choose leaders based on emotion rather than logic and reasoning. How we feel about someone, and boy, they do it with branding, don't they?
Absolutely. And I use something that's called the 10-second rule. And if I didn't learn anything else in the program that I went through when I was in that stage in my life 30 years ago, 25 years ago, I learned something that stuck with me for the rest of my life. It's called the 10-second rule. When we are in emotionally charged states, then it's very, very important for us to just pause, give ourselves 10 seconds before we make any sort of decision, before we make any sort of statement. Because the majority of the time that when we make decisions or comments in an emotionally charged state, they tend to get us in trouble. If we wait that 10 seconds, we allow our logical mind to kick back in, and when we do that, that increases the likelihood of us not making a poor decision.
And depending on your mindset and maybe your chemical dependency, it only takes just 1 second to pull a trigger, to swing a knife, to throw a punch, and that completely changes everybody's life.
The course of your life, and it could forever, and you could lose your life in the second, in a moment's notice, or without a moment's notice, I should say. And if we just pause, it doesn't have to be long, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Just stop. Don't do anything, and just pause. Your rational mind will possibly kick back in, and there's a very good chance that you'll make a different decision that could keep you on a healthy course.
Scott Allen Curley. Look him up. I mean, it sounds just like it is. Scott Allen Curley, which I think is funny, Curly and your bald guy. But hey, Curley. You wear it well, though. On the other hand,
that.
Yeah. But okay, look. By the way, ScottAllenCurley.com. The book is Absolution, The Dark Path to Light. This guy should not be living right now, probably. What was a turning point for you? Was there one day you just went, holy crap, am I in the wrong place?
I was going back and forth to jail and prison so much between 88 and 91, where I felt comfortable in jail and prison. And I was always that person who could talk myself almost out of anything. The turning point was when I went to prison the last time, and I was sentenced to 35 years for auto theft, which now that's almost a misdemeanor, but back in 90, that was a felony. And because I'd gotten in so much trouble, they gave me an enhanced sentence, which was 35 years.
Wow.
And when that judge imposed that time on me, at that moment I realized that this is not life is not a game. This is not a joke, and I have to now choose to be in it. Well, I'll rephrase that. I'll rephrase that. I couldn't choose to be in it. I had to choose whether or not I was going to be of it, and I made a decision that day that I'm not going to be of this anymore. I just made a conscious decision. I remember making that was the most painful thing that ever happened to me, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it forced me to look at myself and to look at my life and the trajectory that it was on. And I made a decision that day that I'm going to do something different. And everyone doesn't have to go through a prison situation like I did because I'm hard-headed. It takes a lot for. But, I was that kid where I'm stubborn. I was hard-headed. But now I have stubbornly been choosing to live my life in a different way and trying to inspire and encourage other people to understand that their trials and their tragedies do not have to remain as such. They can be turned into triumphs. It's simply a matter of a mindset adjustment.
Yeah, determination, and nobody going to do it for you. In fact, people would rather have you not be successful and not be on a good path because it helps them. Scott Allen Curley.
It makes people feel more comfortable. And I'll say this, if you let me get 10 seconds before we go, that there are things in our lives. There's a difference between barriers and obstacles. So many people consider an obstacle as being a barrier. A barrier is something that you cannot get over. You can't get around it. You can't get through it. And a lot of people see these quote unquote perceived barriers and they stop and they give up on themselves and they give up on their dreams. The fact is, most perceived barriers are just obstacles. There is a way to get around it. There is a way to get over it and a way to get through it. I'm the CEO of one of the largest tax litigation firms in the country. I'm self-made. I have several businesses now, and I'm not saying that to boast because I also have 9 felonies and been to prison 4 times. But I refuse to see society's version or version of a barrier as being as such. I see it as obstacles. Just have to think creatively and get around it or over it. And most
you didn't let others.
Yeah, and lastly,
No,
most barriers are obstacles. They're not barriers. They're just obstacles.
You just got to, and you didn't let anybody else define who you are. You remind me of my very good friend. He's like a brother to me now.
Really?
His name is Charlie Burrell. He's from London. This guy was a professional hooligan that followed soccer around in the 80s and caused riots. He was paid by people to do that. And, oh man, this guy, yeah, tattoos on the head and all that kind of stuff. But now you talk to him, and you talk just like him. So there's a common thing here, people. So this isn't just somebody giving you a bunch of fluff. Your book, Absolution, The Dark Path to Light, where do we find it? Everywhere?
It's sold anywhere that online that books can be found, Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com. You can also find it in some of those bookstores as well. And if you go into a bookstore and it's not there, you just go to the front counter and ask them to order it for you, and they'll usually have it within the next day.
All right.
Absolution.
Hey, Scott, I have your digits now, so you and I are staying in touch, all right? All right. Have a great day. Thanks, pal.
Bye-bye.